Welcome back to our Dr. Dolittle read-along series. This is episode 6, and today we'll be reading chapters 9 and 10. If you're new here, I read 2 chapters each week from this classic British book to help you listen, read along, and improve your English pronunciation. Last time, Dr. Dolittle faced a fierce lion and worked hard to cure the sick monkeys in Africa. Now, we'll find out how he becomes a hero to the monkeys and faces a new challenge to get back home. Let's get started. The 9th chapter, The Monkeys' Council. Chi-Chi stood outside the doctor's door, keeping everybody away till he woke up. Then John Dolittle told the monkeys that he must now go back to Puddleby. They were very surprised at this, for they had thought that he was going to stay with them forever. And that night, all the monkeys got together in the jungle to talk it over. And the chief chimpanzee rose up and said, "Why is it the good man is going away? Is he not happy here with us?" But none of them could answer him. Then the grand gorilla got up and said, "I think we all should go to him and ask him to stay. Perhaps if we make him a new house and a bigger bed, and promise him plenty of monkey servants to work for him and to make life pleasant for him, perhaps then he will not wish to go." Then Chi-Chi got up, and all the others whispered, "Shh, look, Chi-Chi, the great traveller is about to speak." And Chi-Chi said to the other monkeys, "My friends, I am afraid it is useless to ask the doctor to stay. He owes money in Puddleby, and he says he must go back and pay it." And the monkeys asked him, "What is money?" Then Chi-Chi told them that in the land of the white men, you could get nothing without money. You could do nothing without money. That it was almost impossible to live without money. And some of them asked, "But can you not even eat and drink without paying?" But Chi-Chi shook his head, and then he told them that even he, when he was with the organ grinder, had been made to ask the children for money. And the chief chimpanzee turned to the oldest orangutan and said, "Cousin, surely these men be strange creatures. Who would wish to live in such a land? My gracious, how paltry." Then Chi-Chi said, "When we were coming to you, we had no boat to cross the sea in, and no money to buy food to eat on our journey. So the man lent us some biscuits, and we said we would pay him when we came back. And we borrowed a boat from a sailor, but it was broken on the rocks when we reached the shores of Africa. Now the doctor says he must go back and get the sailor another boat, because the man was poor and his ship was all he had." And the monkeys were all silent for a while, sitting quite still upon the ground and thinking hard. At last the biggest baboon got up and said, "I do not think we ought to let this good man leave our land till we have given him a fine present to take with him, so that he may know we are grateful for all that he has done for us." And a tiny little red monkey, who was sitting up in a tree, shouted down, "I think that too." And then they all cried out, making a great noise, "Yes, yes, let us give him the finest present a white man ever had." Now they began to wonder and ask one another what would be the best thing to give him. And one said, 50 bags of coconuts, and another, 100 bunches of banana. "At least he shall not have to buy his fruit in the land where you pay to eat." But Chi-Chi told them that all these things would be too heavy to carry so far and would go bad before half was eaten. "If you want to please him," he said, "give him an animal. You may be sure he will be kind to it. Give him some rare animal they have not got in the menageries." And the monkeys asked him, "What are menageries?" Then Chi-Chi explained to them that menageries were places in the land of the white men, where animals were put in cages for people to come and look at. And the monkeys were very shocked and said to one another, "These men are like thoughtless young ones, stupid and easily amused." "Shh, it is a prison he means." So then they asked Chi-Chi what rare animal it could be that they should give the doctor, one the white men had not seen before. And the major of the marmosets asked, "Have they an iguana over there?" But Chi-Chi said yes, there is one in the London Zoo. And another asked, "Have they an okapi?" But Chi-Chi said yes. In Belgium, where my organ grinder took me 5 years ago, they had an okapi in the big city they called Antwerp. And another asked, "Have they a push-me-pull-you?" Then Chi-Chi said, "No, no white man has ever seen a push-me-pull-you. Let us give him that." The 10th chapter, the rarest animal of all. Push-me-pull-yous are now extinct. That means there aren't any more. But long ago, when Dr. Dolittle was alive, there were some of them still left in the deepest jungles of Africa. And even then, they were very, very scarce. They had no tail, but a head at each end, and sharp horns on each head. They were very shy and terribly hard to catch. The black men get most of their animals by sneaking up behind them while they are not looking. But you could not do this with a push-me-pull-you, because no matter which way you came towards him, he was always facing you. And besides, only one half of him slept at a time. The other head was always awake and watching. This was why they were never caught and never seen in zoos. Though many of the greatest huntsmen and the cleverest menagerie keepers spent years of their lives searching through the jungles in all weathers for push-me-pull-yous, not a single one had ever been caught. Even then, years ago, he was the only animal in the world with 2 heads. Well, the monkeys set out hunting for this animal through the forest, and after they had gone a good many miles, one of them found peculiar footprints near the edge of a river. And they knew that a push-me-pull-you must be very near that spot. Then they went along the bank of the river a little way, and they saw a place where the grass was high and thick, and they guessed that he was in there. So they all joined hands and made a great circle round the high grass. The push-me-pull-you heard them coming, and he tried hard to break through the ring of monkeys, but he couldn't do it. When he saw that it was no use trying to escape, he sat down and waited to see what they wanted. They asked him if he would go with Dr. Dolittle and be put on show in the land of the white man. But he shook both his heads hard and said, "Certainly not." They explained to him that he would not be shut up in a menagerie, but would just be looked at. They told him that the doctor was a very kind man, but hadn't any money, and people would pay to see a 2-headed animal, and the doctor would get rich and could pay for the boat he had borrowed to come to Africa in. But he answered, "No, you know how shy I am. I hate being stared at." And he almost began to cry. Then for 3 days they tried to persuade him, and at the end of the 3rd day he said he would come with them and see what kind of a man the doctor was first. So the monkeys travelled back with the push-me-pull-you, and when they came to where the doctor's little house of grass was, they knocked on the door. The duck, who was packing the trunk, said, "Come in." And Chi-Chi very proudly took the animal inside and showed him to the doctor. "What in the world is it?" asked John Dolittle. gazing at the strange creature. "Lord save us!" cried the duck. "How does it make up its mind?" "It doesn't look to me as though it has any," said Jip, the dog. "This, Doctor," said Chee-Chee, "is the push-me-pull-you, the rarest animal of the African jungles, the only two-headed beast in the world. Take him home with you, and your fortune's made. People will pay any money to see him." "But I don't want any money," said the doctor. "Yes, you do," said Dab-Dab the duck. "Don't you remember how we had to pinch and scrape to pay the butcher's bill in Puddleby? And how are you going to get the sailor a new boat you spoke of, unless we have the money to buy it?" "I was going to make him one," said the doctor. "Oh, do be sensible," cried Dab-Dab. "Where would you get all the wood and the nails to make one with? And besides, what are we going to live on? We shall be poorer than ever when we get back. Chee-Chee's perfectly right. Take the funny-looking thing along, do." "Well, perhaps there is something in what you say," murmured the doctor. "It certainly would make a nice new kind of pet, but does what do you call it, really want to go abroad?" "Yes, I'll go," said the push-me-pull-you, who saw at once from the doctor's face that he was a man to be trusted. "You have been so kind to the animals here, and the monkeys tell me that I am the only one who will do. But you must promise me that if I do not like it in the land of the white man, you will send me back." "Why, certainly, of course," said the doctor. "Excuse me, surely you are related to the deer family, are you not?" "Yes," said the push-me-pull-you. "Yes," said the push-me-pull-you, "to the Abyssinian gazelles and the Asiatic chamois on my mother's side. My father's great-grandfather was the last of the unicorns." "Most interesting," murmured the doctor, and he took a book out of the trunk which Dab-Dab was packing and began turning the pages. "Let us see if Buffon says anything." "I notice," said the duck, "that you only talk with one of your mouths. Can't the other head talk as well?" "Oh, yes," said the push-me-pull-you, "but I keep the other mouth for eating mostly. In that way I can talk while I'm eating without being rude. Our people have always been very polite." When the packing was finished and everything was ready to start, the monkeys gave a grand party for the doctor, and all the animals of the jungle came, and they had pineapples and mangoes and honey and all sorts of good things to eat and drink. After they had finished eating, the doctor got up and said, "My friends, I am not clever at speaking long words after dinner, like some men, and I have just eaten many fruits and much honey. But I wish to tell you that I am very sad at leaving your beautiful country. Because I have things to do in the land of the white men, I must go. After I have gone, remember never to let the flies settle on your food before you eat it, and do not sleep on the ground when the rains are coming. I hope you will all live happily ever after." When the doctor stopped speaking and sat down, all the monkeys clapped their hands a long time and said to one another, "Let it be remembered always among our people that he sat and ate with us here under the trees, for surely he is the greatest of men." And the grand gorilla, who had the strength of 7 horses in his hairy arms, rolled a great rock up to the head of the table and said, "This stone for all time shall mark the spot." And even to this day, in the heart of the jungle, that stone still is there, and monkey mothers, passing through the forest with their families, still point down at it from the branches and whisper to their children, "Shh, there it is, look, where the good white man sat and ate food with us in the year of the great sickness." Then, when the party was over, the doctor and his pets started out to go back to the seashore, and all the monkeys went with him as far as the edge of their country, carrying his trunk and bags to see him off. Wow, what an adventure! Before we go, let's dive into our language spotlight for episode 6. Today, we're learning 2 important words: grateful and present. Grateful means feeling thankful, like the monkeys who thanked the doctor for saving them in chapter 9. Present means a gift, like the push me pull you the monkeys gave the doctor. Practice saying them: grateful, present. Notice the grey in grateful and pres in present. 2 more words that I think you should know. Council means a group meeting like the monkeys, and rare means something uncommon like the push me pull you in chapter 10. That's it for episode 6. This week's question for you: how would you show you are grateful if someone helped you like the doctor helped the monkeys? Leave your answer in the comments and practice using the word grateful. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and join us next week for episode 7, where we'll read chapters 11 and 12 to see what new adventures await the doctor and his animals. See you then.